One mistake cost me days of work, and now I have to do it all over again. Second floor. Let's go. Hi everyone, this is Mark, and the moment I picked up this sander and I realized what was waiting for me, all I wanted to do was cry. Not every day is a success, but I will get there. So what caused this setback? There was some mold here and there and a lot of dirt stuck on my expensive beams. I treated these beams before. Sadly, I think that's where everything went wrong. Shortly after I uploaded that video, I came across this comment, and it really got me thinking. Johan suggested a proper treatment against mold. When I looked up the product I used before, I had really bad feeling. It wasn't even meant to protect the wood from mold. So I knew this day would come sooner or later. It really got me thinking, what the hell I'm supposed to do now? I was ready to start building the second floor, everything was planned, all the materials were calculated, and the last thing I needed was to spend days sanding these beams all over again. So yes, I actually ended up doing something completely different, anything to avoid sanding those beams and even thinking about them. Then by trying to free a brick that was stuck on the ground after winter, a piece broke off and hit me straight in the head. At that point, I was just so frustrated and angry with myself. I thought, what am I doing? Nobody was going to do this for me. I have to do something. So I pulled myself together and got started. I didn't have much sandpaper left, but I decided to test a few spots to see how it would turn out and whether it would actually work. As soon as I saw the wood changing from this yellowish color back to its natural bright color, I got a real burst of motivation. Suddenly I was like, oh wow, I actually hate that yellow finish and I want every single beam to look like this. The next day, I stopped overthinking it and I just got started. Then a truck pulled up to my land, and I knew it could only mean one thing. The wood paneling for the second floor had finally arrived. It was delivery time. I paid a total of 1,950 zloty including delivery, and we will be installing this very soon. But first, there is still a bit more sanding to do. I spent the rest of the day sanding as much as I could. I was so focused, I didn't even notice the sun had gone down. The next day, I had plenty of support from my wife, and I made up my mind. I was going to finish it no matter what. If it took 10 hours, then so be it. The wood paneling was already waiting to be installed, and the weekend was slipping away. I never thought sanding could be this challenging. It wasn't the sanding itself, it was holding the machine at awkward angles for hours that really wore me out. And don't even get me started on the dust. The scaffolding definitely made the job easier though. After 2 full days of sanding, it was finally over, and the relief was priceless. The next step was to give the beams a proper coat of wood preservative. This time, I made sure every single centimeter was covered. I also double-checked the product before buying it. Hopefully this one will do much better job of protecting the wood. In total, I spent around 400 zloty on everything I needed. The wood preservative, paint rollers, a strong bleach spray for the affected areas, and a few other bits and pieces. Compared to sanding, this part was actually fun. Painting is definitely more my kind of job. I really enjoyed it. Plan was to give the beams a couple of coats of wood preservative and see how they turned out. If everything stayed mold-free, I could apply a final finish later on, maybe a wax or something similar to protect the wood while keeping its natural look. If you've done something similar and can recommend a good product, let me know in the comments. I'd like to keep the wood as bright and natural as possible, so anything that won't darken it would be perfect. I was too lazy to make breakfast that morning, so I decided to grab something to eat nearby. And that's when the worst happened. I got completely stuck and there was no way I was getting out on my own. I tried rocking the car back and forth, but the more I tried, the worse it got. Thankfully, my neighbor Conrad and his wife came to rescue with their jeep. They were there in no time and pulled me out. Once I got back, I left the car where the ground was solid. Lessons learned. I definitely need to pay more attention to where I drive in the future. It was time to move all the planks off the second floor and cover the window to make sure no rain could get into the house, which would soak the final planks on the second floor. It was time to lay down the wooden flooring. It felt like this was the day the second floor would finally come to life, and I couldn't wait to spend my first night up here. Of course, I quickly realized there was still one crucial piece of puzzle missing. I still owed you their last few blocks from the previous episodes, so I quickly laid them before moving on. If you haven't seen that episode yet, check it out to see how I build those interior walls. Before I could get to this stage, I had to make sure the first board was perfectly parallel to the wall. Otherwise, the rest of the floorboards wouldn't line up properly. I took my time here, and the laser lever was a huge help. These floorboards will be fully visible from downstairs, so I knew I had to get them perfectly straight. Before screwing them down, I treated the underneath of each board with a wood preservative to help prevent future problems such as mold. One board by itself wasn't long enough to cover the entire length, so I had to use shorter pieces too. To make the floor stronger, I staggered all the joints. Of course, I made sure every joint landed on top of a beam. That goes without saying. This part was amazing. It felt just like building with Lego. Everything fit together perfectly, and the progress was visible within an hour. I didn't unwrap every pack at once. Instead, I only opened one pack at a time and treated about 8 to 10 pieces because I didn't have much space upstairs, so I had to be smart about it. I wasn't always working alone. My wife and one of my kids came to inspect the work and make sure everything was in order. At the end of each day, once I had finished the section, I applied a generous coat of wood preservative to the top sides of the boards. This time, I didn't want to take any chances, so I made sure every board was well protected. Hopefully it will do the job. I was ready for the final day of work on the second floor, but then a couple of people I had been waiting a long time for finally showed up on my land. The electricity was being connected from the box in front of my land to the house. This was the last step before the provider company can install the meter and I finally can start using electricity. It had taken almost 2 years of waiting, but the day had finally arrived and I was very happy about it. Of course, that little moment of happiness cost me 4,000 zloty. Definitely not cheap. The blue warning tips mark where the cable is buried, so if I ever dig here in the future, it will remind me to stop before I hit the power cable. Although I took a quick nap, I still managed to finish the entire floor that day. Even better, I only had a few boards left, so there was very little waste. After a quick sweep, I was ready to apply the final coat of the wood preservative and call it a day. Thanks for making it this far. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. The next job in the next episode is too much for one person, so I've called my dad and my father-in-law to give me a hand. If you'd like to support the channel even further, you can do so through the link in the description. There's absolutely no pressure, just being here and watching these videos means a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Mark is out. Peace.